Hi, my name is Graham Smith, and I'm one of the authors that helped develop the learning approach to mathematics that is found in our textbook as well as the video you are about to experience. To learn more about our approach to learning mathematics, visit the web address that accompanies this video. Now, enjoy the video. Ratios and rates. This video will help you write ratios, write rates, and unit rates. Write ratios. Let's start with a definition. A ratio is a quotient that compares two quantities with the same units. Units do not need to be written in a ratio. You may have encountered ratios when shopping for a high-definition television because they use the ratio 16:9 to describe the aspect ratio of the screen. Now let's take a look at some examples that will help you understand how to write the three forms of a ratio, and also how to write a ratio as a fraction in simplest form. Example 1. Bruce's paycheck was $400 after taxes. If he paid $111 in taxes, what is the ratio of the taxes he paid to the amount of his paycheck after taxes? Write this ratio in three different forms. Well, there's a lot of information in this problem. Let's take a look at the first question. They want us to write the ratio of the taxes he paid to the amount of his paycheck after taxes. And notice this ratio is listed as the taxes he paid to the amount of his paycheck. That's the way we're going to want to write this ratio. But notice that's exactly the reverse order of the way they gave us these numbers. Notice they gave us the amount of his paycheck, $400, first. Then they gave us the taxes paid, which was $111. But we want to follow the question which says taxes he paid to the amount of his paycheck. So when we go to write this ratio, and I'm going to write this as a fraction, I want to write the taxes he paid in the numerator. And so the taxes he paid was $111. So I'm going to put that up here in the numerator. The amount of his paycheck was $400. That's going to go in the denominator. Now, since these units are the same, both dollars and dollars, we don't need to write these units in our ratio. So I would just write this ratio as 111 to 400. Now, I want to try to simplify this ratio that I have here, 111 over 400, and we would simplify that the same way we would simplify a fraction. Now, as it turns out, 111 and 400 do not share any common factors, so I can't simplify that ratio, so it's in simplest form. Now I want to write this ratio in three forms. Well, the fraction is one form. The next way to write this ratio is using the word 2. So I can say that 111 to 400. And the third way is to use a colon. 111 colon and then 400. But we read that exactly the same way as the last one. I would read that as 111 to 400. Example 2. Write the ratio of 25 pounds to 20 pounds as a fraction in simplest form. So they listed this 25 pounds to 20 pounds. So that means 25 pounds is going to go in the numerator of my fraction and 20 pounds in the denominator. Now, units are the same, so I don't need to write them in this ratio, so I will just write this as 25 to 20. Now I need to simplify this ratio, and we simplify the ratio the same way that we simplify a fraction. So I'm going to factor both the numerator and denominator. 25, I'm thinking 5 times 5. 20, I'm thinking 4 times 5. There's 4, and then times 5. And it looks like we have a common factor of 5 that's going to divide out. Our final simplified form of this ratio is going to be 5 over 4. Now notice this is an improper fraction. We do not want to change this, however, to a mixed number when we're working with a ratio. We always want to end up with just a single fraction as our answer. Question 3. Write the ratio of 0.46 gallons to 0.7 gallons as a fraction in simplest form. Well, again, notice the units are the same, so I'm not going to write those units in my ratio. So what I have here is I have 0.46 to 0.7. Now I want to clear the decimals out of this ratio. Notice in the top I would need to move the decimal 2 places to the right. In the bottom I would need to move it 1 place in the right. Since I want to clear all the decimals out, I'm going to move both decimals then 2 places to the right. To move the decimal 2 places to the right, I'm going to multiply by 100. So I'm multiplying the top by 100 to clear the decimals out of that. Now if I multiply the top by 100, I need to multiply the bottom by 100 as well. The reason I want to do that is I want to multiply by a value of 1. So let's take a look now. .46 times 100 is going to move the decimal 2 places to the right, which will give us 46 in the numerator. 0.7, that will move it 2 places to the right, which would give us 70 in the denominator. Now I have this fraction. Now I need to simplify it. So I'm going to factor the numerator. With 46, I'm thinking 2 times 23. With 70, I'm thinking 7 times 10. 7 is prime. There's 10. Looks like they have a common factor of 2. And so I'll get 23 to 35 as my final simplified ratio. Now it's time to check your understanding of writing the 3 different forms of a ratio and also writing a ratio in simplest form. Hit pause on your video player and answer these guided practice questions. When you're done, hit play to see how you did. Question 1. Jordan bought some fries for $2 and a soda for $1 at the cafeteria. What is the ratio of the money she spent on soda to fries? Write this ratio in 3 different forms. Well, let's take a look. They want us to write this ratio of soda to fries. So when we write our first form as a fraction, we want to write the soda in the numerator. And the soda was $1. So that's $1. The fries were $2. Since these units are the same, both money, we don't need to write them in our ratio. So we just have the ratio 1 to 2. So we can write it first as a fraction. We can also write this 1 to 2. And then finally, we can use a colon and write it 1 to 2. Question 2. Write the ratio of 24 pounds to 30 pounds as a fraction in simplest form. So we start out by saying 24 pounds to 30 pounds. Since the units are the same, we don't need to include them, so we have the ratio 24 to 30. Now we just need to simplify this ratio by factoring and dividing out the common factors. So with 24, I'm thinking 4 times 6. There's 4. There's 6. With 30, I'm thinking 3 times 10. There's 3. There's 10. Now let's look for common factors. Looks like a common factor of 3 and a common factor of 2. So we're going to get the final simplified ratio 4 to 5. Question 3. Write the ratio of 0.9 liters to 75 liters as a fraction in simplest form. So we're starting out here with 0.9 liters, 75 liters in the denominator. Now, we need to clear out the decimal in the numerator, which means we need to move that decimal 1 place to the right. So to move that decimal 1 place to the right, I'm going to multiply by 10. Now, I also need to multiply the bottom by 10 so that I'm multiplying here by a value of 1, and I'm not changing the value of this original ratio. So let's take a look what we get here. 0.9, if I move that decimal 1 place to the right, I will get 9. And with 75, if I move that decimal 1 place to the right, I will get 750. And now I need to take a look and see if I can simplify this. So I factor the numerator. 9, that's easy. That's 3 times 3. Now factoring 750 is going to be a little more difficult, but we can do it. I'm thinking right away 75 times 10. Well, let's write 10 because that's easy. There's 10. There's 10. Now I need to factor 75. With 75, I'm thinking 3 times 25. Well, here's 3, and that leaves 3 times 25. Well, 25 can be simplified again into 5 times 5. Now let's look for common factors. Yep, just one common factor of 3. Let's see what we get here. So in the numerator, we're going to get 3. In the denominator, this is going to give us 10. And this is going to give us 25. And 10 times 25 is 250. So I get the final simplified form of this ratio as 3 over 250. Write rates and unit rates. Let's start with some definitions. A rate is a quotient that compares two quantities with different units. Units need to be written in a rate. A unit rate is a rate with a denominator of 1 unit. A unit rate can be calculated by dividing the numerator by the denominator. Rates can be used to describe how fast you are traveling, miles per hour, how expensive things are, dollars per pound, and many other everyday comparisons. Now let's take a look at some examples that will help you understand how to write a rate in simplest form and also how to write a unit rate. Example 4. Write a rate for earning $100 in 12 hours. Okay, well, we're going to start, put the money in the top, $100, and that was for 12 hours. Now we need to include the units in this because the units are different. And now we want to simplify this. So we are going to keep these still units of measure here, but for the time being we're going to kind of ignore them a little bit while we simplify this fraction, 100 over 12. So 100, we're going to factor that. With 100, I'm thinking 4 times 25. There's 4. There's 25. With 12, I'm thinking 3 times 4. There's 3. There's 4. Now let's see, looks like common factors of 2 are going to divide out. And so it looks like our final simplified form of this is going to be 25 over 3. Now let's include the units of measure. In the numerator I needed money, so that was $25. And in the denominator I need hours. So the simplified form of this rate is $25 to 3 hours. Example 5. Write a unit rate for driving 163 miles using 5 gallons of gas. Okay, let's start. So we have 163 miles using 5 gallons. Now, if we want a unit rate here, that means we want a denominator of 1. We don't want to have 5 gallons in the denominator. We want to have 1 gallon in the denominator. So what we need to do is we need to divide that 5 out of the denominator. So what we're going to do here is we are going to divide a 5 out of the denominator. Now we don't want to change the value of this rate, so I need to divide the numerator by the same thing, so that we're actually here dividing by a value of 1. So let's start. The denominator is going to be easy. 5 divided by 5 is 1, so I end up with 1 gallon in the denominator. Now in the numerator, that's going to be a little bit trickier. I need to divide 5 into 163. So we'll come off here on some scratch work, and we're saying 5 goes into 163. So let's start. 5 won't go into 1, but it will go into 16 3 times. That's 15. We subtract, we get 1. Bring down the 3. 5 into 13. That's going to go twice. 2 times 5 is 10. Subtract and get 3. We don't want to have any remainders here. So what we're going to do is we're going to put our decimal. We'll annex a 0. Bring down that 0. And now let's see. 5 into 30 goes 6 times. And 5 times 6 is 30, so that's even. So we're done with our division here. We get 32.6. So now we write the ratio. If this was a car we were talking about, now we could say that this car got 32.6 miles per gallon. Now it's time to check your understanding of writing a rate in simplest form and also writing a unit rate. Hit pause on your video player and answer these guided practice questions. When you're done, hit play to see how you did. Question 4. Write a rate for earning $150 in 20 hours. So let's see, we'd start with our money on the top, $150 over 20 hours. Okay, and now we want to simplify this, same way that we simplified a fraction. So with 150, I'm thinking 15 times 10. 15 times 10. Well, 15 isn't prime, I can factor that. There's 15. 10, I can factor that. It's 2 times 5. In the denominator, 20, I'm thinking 4 times 5. There's 4. There's 5. Let's look for some common factors now. Looks like a common factor of 5. Also a common factor of 2. So let's take a look. Now I want to make sure I include the units here. So money in the top, and that was $15. And then in the denominator, 2 hours. Question 5. Write a unit rate for driving 134.4 miles using 4 gallons of gas. All right, so we have in the numerator 134.4 miles, and then we're using 4 gallons of gas to travel at. We want to write this as a unit rate, which means we want to have 1 in the denominator. So in order to have 1 in the denominator, I need to divide that 4 out. Since I'm dividing 4 out of the denominator, I also want to divide 4 out of the numerator. so that I'm dividing by a value of 1 here and not changing the original value of our rate. Okay? The denominator is easy. 4 gallons divided by 4, that gives us 1 gallon, exactly what we want to have in the denominator. Now we'll have to do some scratch work for 4 into 134.4. So 4 is going into 134.4. Let's see. 4 goes into 13 3 times. It's 12. Subtract, we get 1. Bring down the 4. 4 goes into 14 3 times again. That's 12. Subtract, we get 2. Now we'll bring down that last 4. 4 goes into 24 6 times, and it's going to go evenly in there. If we subtract it, we'll get 0. So it looks like we're going to get 33.6 miles for every 1 gallon of gas. Comparison shopping to find the best buy. By comparing products with the unit rate, dollar per quantity, you can determine which product is a better buy. To make this comparison, the unit rate, dollar per quantity, should be written as a fraction, dollars in the numerator over 1 quantity, and that quantity can be just 1 item, it could be 1 ounce, it could be 1 pound, whatever sort of measure we're going to use in the denominator, but we want to make sure that the denominator has 1 of those quantities in it. Now let's take a look at an example that will help you understand how to use the unit rate to determine which of 2 products is a better buy. Example 6. Find the unit price and decide which product is a better buy. Round your answers to the hundredths place if necessary. How much will someone save per ounce if they purchase the better buy? A couple questions going on here. The first thing they want us to do is find the unit price for each of these products. Well, the unit price means we are going to get 1 unit per dollar. So in this case, since we're measuring these products in ounces, the unit price is going to be money in the top, how much something costs per 1 ounce. So let's take a look at each of these products and figure out a unit price for each of them. So the first one we have, the money that we have here is 0.26 per 12 ounces. Now we want to get a denominator of 1 ounce here, which means we're going to divide the top and the bottom by 12. Well, the denominator is going to be easy. 12 divided by 12 is going to give us just this 1 ounce that we want. The numerator, we need to divide 12 into 0.26. So let's take a look. 12 going into 0.26. And now we're supposed to round our answer to the hundredths place. So let's start dividing. Okay, 12 will not go into 2, so we put a 0 up here. 12 will go into 26. That goes 2 times. 2 times 12 is 24. We subtract, we get 2. Now, we need to round this answer to the hundredths place, which means we need to divide to 1 more place value here, the thousandths place. So I'm going to annex a 0, bring that 0 down, and now I'm going to say 12 goes into 20, and 12 goes into 20 just 1 time. And so we have a 1 up here. 1 times 12 is 12. We can stop with our division now because we've got a digit in the thousandths place. So we can round that to the hundredths place. That 1 would tell us to keep that 2 the same. So it looks like for this first product here, that product is 2 cents per 1 ounce. Let's take a look at the next one here. So we have 68 ounces for $1.96. So the money goes in the numerator, 196, and we have 68 ounces in the denominator. So we are going to divide both the top and the bottom by 68. The denominator is easy. 68 divided by 68 leaves us with 1 ounce. The numerator, we are going to have to take 68 into 1.96. So let's come over here on some scratch work. 68 is going into 1.96. All right, let's see. 68 will not divide into 1, so that's going to be a 0. 68 will also not divide into 19, so that's going to be a 0. It will, however, go into 196. So let's use some guess and check. I'm thinking maybe 2 times. So let's see. 68 times 2. 2 times 8 is 16. Carry the 1. 2 times 6 is 12 plus 1 is 3. 136. That looks pretty close. Let's make sure that when I do the subtraction it works out. Let's see. That was 2 times that it went in there. And okay, so let's see, when we're subtracting, we get 0, and 6, and notice 60 is smaller than 68, so that tells me it would only go in there 2 times. Now again, we're going to need to round this to the hundredths place, so I'm going to need to annex a 0 here. Bring that 0 down, and now we're going 68 is going into 600. Guess and check here again. 10 would be too much. That would be 680. So I'm going to try maybe 8 here. So let's try 68 times 8. So 8 times 8 is 64. Carry the 6. 8 times 6 is 48. Plus 6 is 54. So 544. And that was 8 times. Let's see, that seems good. Now I don't need to continue with the division because I know now how to round this. This 8 is going to tell me to round that 2 up to a 3. So the unit rate on this one, or the unit price on this one, is going to be 3 cents per ounce for the bigger bottle. So product A is the better buy. And you will save 1 cent per ounce if you purchase the better buy. Now it's time to check your understanding of using a unit rate to determine which of 2 products is a better buy. Hit pause on your video player and answer this guided practice question. When you're done, hit play to see how you did. Question 6. Find the unit price and decide which product is a better buy. Round your answers to the hundredths place if necessary. How much will someone save per ounce if they purchase the better buy? Okay, we want to get a unit price for each of these, which means we want money, in this case, over 1 ounce. Since we're measuring each of these products in ounces, we want to have 1 ounce in the denominator. Let's see, let's set this first one up. So we're starting out with 225 over 128 ounces. And we want to get this down to 1 ounce, which means we need to divide both top and bottom by 128. So here we go. 128 is going into 2.25. Let's see, it will not divide into 2. It will not divide into 22, but it will go into 225. I think that's only going to go 1 time. So 128, we subtract, borrow from the 2, which makes that a 15, so that'll be 7. Now we need to borrow from this 2 to make that an 11. 11 minus 2 is 9. 1 minus 1 is 0, so you can see 97 is smaller than 128, so that means we went in there the correct amount of times. Now we need to round this answer to the hundredths place, which means I need to divide to 1 more place value. So I'm going to annex a 0, bring down that 0, and 128 into 970. I'm going to estimate 8 times would probably be a little too much, so I'm going to first check and see if 7 will work. So on some scratch work here, I'm going to do 128 times 7. 7 times 8 is 56, carry the 5. 7 times 2 is 14, plus 5 is 19, carry the 1. 7 times 1 is 7, plus 1 is 8. 896. Yes, that looks as close as we can get without going over. So that was 7 times. And that was 896. Now we don't need to continue with this division because we're ready to round. The 7 tells us to round this 1 up. So my unit price for product A is going to be 2 cents per ounce. Let's take a look at product B. We have $2.15 for 58 ounces. And we want to get this down to 1 ounce. So we're dividing top and the bottom by 58. So let's go on some scratch work here. We're going to say 58 is going into 2.15. See, 58 will not divide into 2. It will not divide into 21, but it will go into 215. So 58 into 215, I'm thinking 3 times probably. So 58 times 3, let's see if that guess was right. 3 times 8 is 24, carry the 2. 3 times 5 is 15, plus 2 is 17. So 174. That's not enough. Well, actually, it's pretty close. Let's take a look. So we said 3 times 174. Let's subtract and see. 5 minus 4 is 1. Borrow from the 2, which will make this an 11. 11 minus 7 is 41. Actually, that's going to work. So 3 times. Now we're going to need to annex a 0. Bring it down. So 58 into 410. And 58 into 410, 8's probably going to be a little too much, so I'm going to guess 7. So let's see, 58 times 7. 7 times 8 is 56. Carry the 5. 7 times 5 is 35. Plus 5 is 40. So 406. Yeah, that's very close. So 7 was right on the money there. We don't need to continue dividing because we're ready to round. 7 tells us to round that 3 up. So it looks like for product B, we're going to get 4 cents per ounce. So product A is a better buy. And you save, looks like 2 cents per ounce. If you found this video helpful, I encourage you to check out our other videos that we have on YouTube, or visit the web address that accompanies this video to learn more about our approach to learning mathematics.